The greatest European player ever, and a man who changed the game of basketball with his skill set, are all ways to describe the number 18 member of my 25 greatest players in NBA history list, Dirk Nowitzki. Dirk Nowitzki was born June 19, 1978 in Würzburg, Germany. Nowitzki's parents had all the makings of one that would create an athlete, as his mom was a pro basketball player and his dad was a former handball player who represented Germany at the international level. Growing up, Nowitzki was a talented athlete in handball and tennis. He would eventually leave both due to being tired of comments about his height and instead started playing the game of basketball. After joining the local club, DJK Würzburg, the 15-year-old was spotted by former German international Holger Geschwinder, who recognized his talent immediately. After gaining the approval of Dirk and his parents, the former pro put the teenager through a series of unorthodox drills that emphasized shooting, passing, and ball handling, and ignored the traditional big man tactics and weight training drills. Dirk's talents were instantly obvious, and a year in, Geschwinder told the boy he had a chance to be great if he was willing to put in the work. Nowitzki agreed and invested full time into their workouts. At just 16, the hard work paid off, and Dirk cracked the professional team at DJK. Just a year later, at 17, he was a starter, and by 18 he was a dominant player in the German second division. It was the club and town's dream to reach the first division Bundesliga. By the teenager's fourth season starting in 97-98, they had a real opportunity as the now graduated from primary school teen could focus more on basketball. During the season, though, he had to enroll in the military for his mandatory year of service. Despite this, and Nowitzki having to leave during the promotion phase in order to pursue his NBA draft dreams, the team would finally be promoted, and Dirk was named German Player of the Year at just 19 years old. It was time for him to test American basketball. After playing against a series of pros in 97 in an exhibition game that Charles Barkley still talks about today, Nowitzki had been pondering heading to college, but a week of exhibition hoop a year later changed all of that. At the 1998 Nike Hoop Summit, the international team practiced for a week in Dallas before heading to San Antonio for the game. While in Dallas, Nowitzki's skill set put head coach Don Nelson and his general manager and son Donnie into a frenzy. They couldn't believe what they were seeing and tried everything to keep him from playing in the game. They failed though, and Dirk played in San Antonio and dominated the best American high school players in the country to the tune of 33 points. If Dallas hoped to get their guy, they had to jump in front of Boston at 10, who was rumored to also be in love with the German Larry Bird. At the last moment, Dallas was able to pull off a trade with Milwaukee that shipped Robert Traylor to the Bucks and gave Dallas Nowitzki one spot in front of Boston. Dirk's rookie year was a mess. He struggled to acclimate to American culture and thanks to the lockout never got a full training camp. Teammate Steve Nash saved him from potentially bailing back to Europe after the debacle. Nowitzki was motivated to prove his critics wrong and came back after a summer in Germany training with Geschwinder, a new player. That season, he doubled his points per game from 8.2 to 17.5 and converted on 38% of his threes after a disastrous 20% in his rookie year. By 2002, he was an all-star, and in 2005, he was first-team All-NBA. That came in his first season without Nash, who left Dallas after a weak contract offer from the Mavericks. After Nash, Dirk would play with just two other all-stars in the rest of his career. His lack of help did anything but slow him down, as in 2006 he led the Mavericks to their first finals appearance in franchise history after they finally vanquished Tim Duncan and the Spurs. In the finals, Dirk would play far from his best and earned a massive amount of criticism despite a level of officiating that Mavericks owner Mark Cuban still hasn't let go of. In 2007, Dirk came out a man on a mission and led the Mavs to 67 wins and won the first MVP for a European in league history. The Mavs would fall in the first round, though, to his former coach Don Nelson's We Believe Warriors in a revenge series versus Cuban and the entire Mavericks organization. Dallas would choke in the 2008, 2009, and 2010 playoffs, and by 2011, Dirk was known more for being a one-man show than for changing the game with his shooting ability. He wasn't the prototype for the future big man. Instead, he was the prototype for the soft Euro who couldn't get it done when it mattered most. After a ho-hum 50-win season that left few impressed, and a first-round series win versus Portland that hardly quieted the critics, Dallas entered the second round a respectable place to take their usual playoff L. I mean, of course the same old Mavericks would lose to the back-to-back NBA champion Lakers, right? Well, in Game 1, Dirk dropped 28 to stun the Staples Center crowd with a Mav victory, and in Game 2, when the clock struck 0, Dallas had a 2-0 lead, and Laker fans were shocked. By the end of Game 4 and a 36-point victory, Dallas had retired Phil Jackson and left Laker fans without words. For an encore to this shocking performance, Dirk dropped 48 in a Game 1 win over OKC in the conference finals that would set the tone for a 5-game Maverick victory. Suddenly they were headed to the NBA Finals against Miami. It was a cute run, but let's be honest. This was the Big Three Heat and they were the same old Mavericks. This wasn't a fair fight. In Game 2 though, Dirk would scoop Chris Bosh into the next week with a game-winning layup. But by Game 4, Miami had regained control of the series and the Mavericks seemed to be on the brink with a 2-1 series deficit, and worse still, Dirk was sick. This wasn't the Nowitzki of old though, who folded in big playoff moments, as he willed Dallas to a series-tying win. Following the game, LeBron and Wade mocked Nowitzki's illness, so he dropped 29 points on them and sent the series back to Miami with a 3-2 lead. He was far from done, and in Game 6 on the Heat's home floor, drilled the dagger with his patented fall-away jumper. Following the game, Dirk was so overcome with emotion he sprinted to the locker room to avoid being filmed breaking down crying. His emotion was understandable. His run would be inscribed in basketball history forever as a moment when team overcame raw talent, and when he proved to the world he was different than everyone thought. In '98, Dirk was seen as just a raw talent. Now over a decade later, he was the face of what being a champion was. Dirk needs to be remembered for more than just simply this playoff run. When he entered the league, Tim Duncan was known as the Big Fundamental, thanks to his classic low-post power forward skill set. By the time Dirk retired last season though, his skill set was built on the fundamentals that people know and look for in big men today. Porzingis, Karl-Anthony Towns, and Kevin Durant should all be known as members of the Nowitzki generation. He was the first big to let it fly from deep. His one-legged fallaway should be enshrined separately from him in the Hall of Fame as an all-time move, and his impact should get its own wing. He made a star from Europe, being the best player in a championship possible, and he made having a 50-40-90 season as a 7-footer a reality. Instead of being just a skinny kid from Europe like all the others, the German Larry Bird carved out his own spot in basketball history as a man who changed the sport forever thanks to the way he played the game.